Hey guys, good afternoon. I know there was a little bit of a discussion before. I just want to make sure that we understand this is a standard press gaggle that where you're free to use the audio after this concludes if you need to. I want to acknowledge the atrocious attack that took place near the diplomatic zone in Kabul. Initial reports indicate that this attack killed more than 90 and injured more than 300 Afghan civilians, innocent bystanders, and members of the diplomatic community. We're also aware of reports that multiple United States citizens were among the injured. The United States strongly condemns this attack, which came during the holy month of Ramadan, and our embassy will continue to work with our Afghan and coalition partners to provide assistance and help bring the perpetrators of this attack to justice. The President just concluded a call with the President of Afghanistan to relay our deepest condolences, and we will have a readout of that call shortly. Earlier today, I know you all heard from Secretary Shulkin about what he and his staff are doing to transform and modernize the Department of Veterans Affairs into a system that can most effectively deliver the care our nation's heroes deserve. Other members of the Cabinet are also making announcements today. This morning, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Dr. Tom Price, announced that over $70 million in grants to help communities and healthcare providers address the opioid crisis. Ending the opioid epidemic is a top priority for this President and his team, and we're tackling this issue from all angles. In March, the President established his Commission on Combating Addiction and the Opioid Crisis, led by Governor Chris Christie. The funds announced by HHS today are critical to improving the access to treatment and recovery services, as well as promoting the availability and distribution of overdose reversing drugs, and they come on top of $485 million in grants announced in April of 2017. The Trump administration will continue to empower the men and women on the forefront of the fight against this crisis, which has claimed more than 33,000 lives in 2015, until it has been rooted out of the communities across the country that it has poisoned. Also this morning, Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control announced new designations under the Kingpin Act on 4 Colombian nationals and 5 Colombian companies associated with La Oficina, a violent criminal organization with ties to the most notorious drug cartels in the country. These new designations will further reduce the economic power of this group, which is known to be involved in narcotics trafficking, money laundering, extortion, and murder for hire, by identifying and targeting those working on its behalf. The Environmental Protection Agency is also announcing $56 million in grants to fund the cleanup of historically contaminated properties, also known as brownfields. Through these grants, the EPA is empowering communities experiencing significant economic distress to access and clean up these sites, as well as initial steps towards redeveloping vacant and underutilized properties, transforming them into productive venues that will benefit their local economy and community. Also today, Secretary Chow announced that the Federal Aviation Administration will award over $527 million in infrastructure grants to 584 airports throughout the country. These funds will support the safety, capacity, and security of our nation's airports, assisting them in various types of projects, including runways, taxiways, and airport signage, lighting, and marking. The facilities receiving grants range in size, and many are regional and municipal airports located in rural communities. Here at the White House, the President is soon to welcome the Prime Minister of Vietnam. The President looks forward to discussing ways to strengthen our bilateral relationship and deepen regional cooperation, one of America's important partners in Southeast Asia. There will be a pool spray at the top of their meeting coming up shortly. As the Prime Minister hinted at yesterday at a Chamber of Commerce event, we have some big announcements on agreements between American companies and Vietnam coming soon. These deals, once implemented, will be a very good step in building our trade relationship with Vietnam and reducing our large trade deficit. And of course, they represent new opportunities for American jobs. There will be a more formal announcement later today, but to give you a taste, some of the American companies involved in these deals include GE, Honeywell, Hilton, Caterpillar, and UPS. Finally, I'm pleased to announce that the President will welcome the President of Romania to the White House on June 9th for a working visit. And with that, I'll take your questions. Cheryl.
Thanks, Sean. There have been conflicting reports this morning. Can you say whether the President has made a decision about whether to stay in or withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement?
I think the President's comments on this, that he'll be making a decision in the next few days, stand.
Okay, will he have a formal cabinet meeting or a formal review before he makes that decision?
That'll obviously be up to the President to decide. Hunter.
Thank you, Sean. Do you think people should be concerned that the president posted somewhat of an incoherent tweet last night and that it then stayed up for hours?
No.
Why did it stay up so long? Is no one watching this?
No, I think the president and a small group of people know exactly what he meant. Blake.
Wait a minute. What is confessing?
Blake.
What does it mean?
Blake.
What is confessing?
Blake.
I want to go to Paris.
No, but see, you can't.
Blake.
Itself?
Blake.
Is at this point with thank you. Is at this point with Paris, is it fully removed, fully stay in, or is there a middle ground that the president is willing to negotiate?
I think
some pieces cut out, some pieces remain.
Look, when the president has a decision, he'll make that announcement and he'll make it clear what the basis of that is.
And then-
Trey.
Thanks, Sean. Two quick questions. So to be clear, the president has not made a final decision on the Paris Climate Agreement?
I obviously don't know whether or not he's made it, but when he's ready to make an announcement, he'll make it clear.
And one quick follow-up. Who is he consulting with when he is making this decision? What factors is he considering?
He's listened to a lot of people, both here, industry leaders, as I think Director Cohen mentioned last week. He consulted with foreign leaders, but he's talked to industry leaders. He's had a lot of input, and ultimately he'll make the decision. John.
Thank you, Sean. Two questions. First, yesterday you spoke very strongly and passionately about the president's commitments to human rights. Will he bring up his own strong belief in human rights with the Prime Minister of Vietnam, particularly given the very negative reports on human rights from Human Rights Watch and the State Department?
I'm not going to get into the private discussions the president's had. I think we've talked about this with respect to other foreign leaders, that he believes that a lot of the effectiveness of his actions is done behind scenes, and we'll have a readout for that meeting when it's done.
All right, my other question is this. Yesterday, you answered my question about the president and President Duterte of the Philippines and his war on drugs. President Duterte has also declared martial law in Mindanao in fighting terrorists and has suggested he might declare a nationwide martial law, not unlike that of the Marcos regime for 15 years. Does the president have any views?
I think you should touch base with the State Department on that. Yeah.
Thanks, Sean. Does the White House still plan on releasing ethics pledge waivers by tomorrow? And if so, will that be administration-wide? And is there any information you can get to us on how to access that?
Yeah, I should have an update for you at some point on that. I'm not ready to discuss it at this time. Zeke.
Thanks, Sean. Just following up on the Jerusalem Amnesty Act waiver, has the president made a decision? Sources are saying he's going to issue it. And does the president have any update on the timing of his decision as fulfilling his pledge to move the embassy?
I expect something very soon on that.
And so will the president also give an explanation for why he's taking whichever action he's taking, given that this was a central campaign pledge of his?
Yeah, I think once we have a decision, we'll put it out and we'll have a statement for it. Amen.
Thanks, John. A little while ago, Elon Musk tweeted a threat to withdraw from some of the White House CEO councils if the president leaves the Paris Accord, makes that decision. Does the White House have any reaction to that?
I think let's wait and see what the president's decision is. I don't want to get ahead of the president. When he makes that decision, we'll let you know and have any further reaction at that time.
Can you characterize Elon Musk's level of input here? He said he's been
I
advising
don't.
the president on
I can't.
this. And this is somebody that the White House obviously has invited multiple times and participates on multiple councils here. So is he a trusted advisor? Or how
I
would you
think
characterize
the
him?
president has a lot of people that he gets input from on a lot of issues.
Sean,
Yeah.
CNN is reporting that James Comey will testify that the president pressured him to drop the Michael Flynn investigation. Did the president engage in obstruction of justice in repeated meetings with James Comey?
Our job, we are focused on the president's agenda, and going forward, all questions on these matters will be referred to outside counsel Mark Kasowitz.
Thanks, Sean. The president met with European leaders last week, obviously. Did those discussions from the German chancellor and others influence his decision-making on the Paris Climate Agreement?
As I mentioned, the president has taken input from a lot of individuals to help formulate his decision-making, and when he's got that decision made, we'll make it clear.
And a follow-up, please. There are several ways that the president could withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement, the fastest of which is withdrawing from the UN framework on Convention on Climate Change. Is that on the table?
Again, I don't want to get ahead of what he may or may not do. When we have an announcement, we'll let you know. Matt.
Thanks, Sean. I have a question about this Kathy Griffin incident.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, her conduct has been widely condemned, and it's not a partisan thing to say joking about violence for the president is unacceptable. But on that note, I wanted to ask about Ted Nugent, who joked multiple times about assassinating President Barack Obama, who said Hillary Clinton should be hanged. He was invited to the White House for dinner by President Trump. Do you believe that was appropriate? And if Trump is offended by this incident, why was he not bothered by all of Mr. Nugent's comments?
With respect to Kathy Griffin, I think the President, the First Lady, and the Secret Service have all made statements on that I'll let stand.
No, but the Ted Nugent, the discrepancy there, why was it okay for Mr. Nugent to make these comments?
I'm not, to be honest with you, I'd have to look back and see what those statements were and what the reaction was at the time.
Stuck on my machine.
I understand that, but I'm not aware of what the reaction was at the time. I know that the statement with respect to Ms. Griffin was acknowledged by both the First Lady, the President, and the Secret Service.
But Ted Nugent
Francesca.
did say that, Sean.
Francesca.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Not to beat a dead horse here on the Paris Agreement, though. There have been several reports today that said the president is planning to pull out of the Paris Agreement. Are you saying that those reports are wrong, that he has not made a decision yet?
No, what I am saying is that when the President has a decision to make, he'll let people be it known. And I don't think whether it's a personnel decision or any other action that we tend to get ahead of the President. He's the ultimate decider, and when he has a decision to make, he'll let you know. I'm sorry for the delay, but I know we've got Vietnam welcoming here.
Reports are wrong.
Catch up with you later. Thank you, guys.
I'm sure he's going to be.